Welcome to Love Under the Influence. I'm Pastor D.
And I'm Pastor Tay.
Together,
Together,
we redefine what marriage looks like under the will of God. What's up? What's up? What's up? I'm Pastor D.
and I'm Pastor Tay.
Today's episode, we'll be discussing the power of words.
Listen, you got to ask yourself, am I blessing my marriage or am I cursing my marriage? Because that's important.
Yes, I remember early on in our marriage, both of us being on our own at a very
Yeah.
young age, not seeing a successful marriage, not seeing a successful couple. We had a very toxic marriage. We didn't know how to
Yeah.
talk to each other. So, in the moments or in the times we would have a disagreement, I'm trying to say the meanest thing to you, and you're trying to say the meanest thing to me. And what
And
we
that was
didn't
the goal.
realize, your words carry weight
Yeah.
because everything that you see in this physical world, it was a word first.
Right.
So when I'm telling my wife, oh, you can't do this or you can't do that, I'm framing my marriage with my words.
Right.
And in early on in our marriage, we didn't understand the power of words. We didn't understand the magnitude of what we were
Right.
saying because we didn't know any better.
Right.
And because if you look at it, if you say you always do that, or you can't do this, or you never do that, why would you expect your husband or your wife to be able to do something that you say they can't do? You can't provide for me. You can't take care of me. You can't do this. But when they don't do it, when they don't live up to your expectations, why are you surprised? Those are the words that you
Right.
spoke over your marriage. So you got to be careful. Are you cursing your marriage or are you blessing your marriage? Words are powerful.
Yeah.
Words carry weight, and words hurt.
You have to be responsible.
Have to
You
be
know,
responsible.
the Bible says that power of life and death lies in the tongue,
Right.
and those that love it shall eat the fruit thereof.
Exactly.
So if I don't want to eat divorce,
Hmm.
I'm not going to speak divorce.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If I don't want to eat something that makes me sick, I'm not going to say you make me sick. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So I believe with us growing in God,
Hmm.
getting saved, and I know I got saved in 2002. You later on got saved in 2003. We spent so much time in the streets. We spent so much time being growing up in a toxic
Right.
environment, surrounded by toxic people. I mean, we were toxic,
Right. Right.
but we didn't know we were toxic. We
Exactly.
didn't identify that something was wrong until we got a glimpse at what's right.
Right.
So I believe that as a, when you go to kindergarten, the first thing you learn to do is to identify.
Hmm.
When you learn how to identify colors, you learn how to identify shapes, you learn how to identify words, letters, and so on. And those are the things that prepare you to be great in life.
Right.
Starting in really pre-K kindergarten.
Hmm.
That's what they're trying to teach you, that, hey, these are life skills. Reading, math, all of these are a part of life skills.
Hmm.
I believe that once we started identifying, hey, this is wrong, we
Hmm.
shouldn't say this,
Right.
or this is wrong, we shouldn't do this.
Hmm.
That is what opened the door. If you do not identify that your words hurt,
Hmm.
you'll keep saying them.
Right. That's true.
Because the words that you're saying, they are hurtful to your spouse,
Hmm.
but they are hurting your marriage.
Exactly. Just think about it, right? The power of words. When you go to Burger King, you don't say, I want a Whopper, and then when they give you the Whopper, you say, well, I really wanted a chicken sandwich.
Right.
No, you said what you wanted. They
Right.
gave you what you wanted. So if you continuously telling your spouse what they can't do,
Yeah.
but you expect them to do what you say they can't do.
Yeah.
But you keep saying you can't take care of me. You keep saying you can't provide for me. You keep
Yeah.
saying you don't know how to lead. And you keep getting what you are saying, but you desire the opposite.
Well,
You, you see what I'm saying?
let me ask you this, baby. You've been there.
Right.
Talk about that. Can you tell us about how you felt when I used to tear your manhood down? How you
It,
felt?
it was hurtful because if you always telling somebody what they can't do, it's a hurtful thing,
Right.
especially when it's coming from somebody who you love, especially when it's coming from somebody who you was in covenant with. So if somebody keep telling you, that's like as a parent, if you call your kids dumb, if you call your kids stupid, and their report card come home, and their report card, it reflects what you were speaking, it
Right.
reflects what you were saying, why are you surprised?
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So we have to be careful in our words. Our words are, we have to be precise,
Right.
and we have to be intentional with our word. That's why the Bible tells us to speak those things to be not as though they were.
Right.
I tell people all the time, if you don't have any money, never speak that you're broke.
Right.
Just say it's not in your budget, because so many times we say, I'm broke. I can't do this. I'm broke. I can't do that, and you wonder why you can't do it,
Yeah.
because you continuously speak what you see. Just think about it. Everything that we see in this world, it was a word first. I mean,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? It was a
Right.
word. It was a word. So just think about. I remember when they put the LA Fitness on Old National, they put a sign in the ground saying LA Fitness coming soon. And based off that sign, people were going to the Smoothie King. It was a they had an office right next to the Smoothie King, and people were signing up to for employment. They were signing up to become a member.
Right.
And the LA Fitness, it wasn't there. They did it based off a
Right.
word. That's how powerful words are. All it said was LA Fitness coming soon. And it's the same thing with your marriage. If you
Yeah.
want your marriage to be successful, if you want your marriage to be productive, I don't care the state that your husband may be in, or the state that your wife may be in. You got to speak what you want to see. My husband
Yeah.
is a leader. My
Yeah.
husband is the head. My husband is an awesome provider, because in instant, that's what we did over our marriage. I
Right.
remember you wrote that marriage confession, and although our marriage wasn't anything that it is today, we spoke what we
Yes, we
wanted
did.
to see in our marriage. Now we're living days that we prayed for. Now we are living the days that we spoke. You
Yeah.
can't speak that your husband is a failure. Every time your husband do something, you can't do nothing
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah.
why are you surprised when he don't do anything right? That's your confession.
Yeah.
Words carry weight. I don't see anybody that's successful in business, anybody that's successful in sports, that said, when I was a child, I knew I wasn't going to make it to the NBA. Or when I was a kid,
Hmm.
I knew I was going to be broke all my life. I remember seeing an interview with Tiger Woods and his dad. His dad said when Tiger Woods was a kid, he used to put headphones on his ears when he was asleep, telling him that he would be the greatest golfer ever. That's what his
Hmm.
dad said. And I remember that song. I think it was that the group, was it Nappy
Oh,
Roots?
I know you're
They
talking
had that
about
song,
that.
All My
Yeah.
Life I've
Oh.
Been Poor, All My Life I've Been Broke. So if you were saying all your life you've been broke,
And then they had the audacity to say, and it really don't matter. It does
and it,
matter.
and it really don't matter. So
It
if
matters.
if you are saying this over your life, I guarantee you, you're going to be broke. I never seen nobody driving a nice car and they say, "Well, I would never have a nice car." I never seen nobody living in a nice house that said, "I would never have a nice
Right.
house." Your words matter.
Yeah.
Everything that you see in this physical world, it was a word first.
Your words, I believe, uh, pave the path that leads to your destiny.
Right.
I believe that your words pave the path that leads to your destiny. And I
Right.
believe it also paves the path that leads to better or worse.
Exactly.
If I want my marriage to be better, I got to speak better.
Got to speak
If
better.
I want my marriage to evolve, I got to speak that it's going to evolve.
Hmm.
And you might say, well, Pastor Tay, I've been speaking, but in the midst of frustration, what have
Hmm.
you been speaking?
Right.
See, the devil's job is to get you agitated and frustrated.
Hmm.
Because if you're agitated and frustrated, if you're not spiritually led, you're going to speak what you see, because
Hmm.
there's something visually causing a frustration.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's something visually that's causing agitation.
Hmm.
So either you're going to speak when you speak from the natural, you speak in what you see in the natural.
Right.
When you speak from the spiritual, you speak in what you believe in God for.
Right.
Like I'm believing God that I'm out of debt. All of my needs are
Mm-hmm.
met. I have plenty more to put in store. My husband is this.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, I I don't know why I chose to break you.
Mm-hmm.
But when I learned how to make you
Mm-hmm.
with my
Mm.
words,
But you
you
know,
know?
a lot of it is learned behavior.
Yeah.
You're a product of your environment.
Yeah.
People tend to see what people do. You know, you train to do what you see.
Yeah.
Even in nature, animals they react off instinct. No, a lion doesn't teach the cubs how to hunt. The cubs see the mama lion hunt, so they
Mhm.
learn. So a lot of times the environment that we put in, we learn about what we see. That's why it's so important. And only for us to do better, we have to see better. Only for
Yeah.
us to do better, we have to know better. We didn't know about the power of words until we got into a word-based church.
Yes.
Words hurt. People say all the time, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never. That's one of the biggest lies that's ever told. Words hurt.
Man,
You
they
know,
hurt,
they hurt
they
because
crush.
just think about it. How many times have a mother told their son, "You just like your daddy"? But the daddy is no good. The daddy is a deadbeat. The
Mm.
daddy is in prison. The daddy is not around. The daddy can't do anything. But you've been telling this child he's just like his daddy. So when the child grows up to be just like his daddy, why are you surprised?
Mm.
That's what you spoke. And that's why it's power in words. You can't use your words recklessly. That's why when
Mhm.
the police pull you over, they tell you you have the right to remain silent. Anything that you say will be used against you. So we have to take that same thing when it comes to life. If you don't know what to speak over your spouse, if you don't know what to speak over your kids, you
Yes.
have to exercise your right to remain silent because anything that you say, the enemy, he's going to use that against you. Remember, you said your husband wasn't nothing.
Yeah.
Remember, you said your husband couldn't provide. Remember, you said your son was just like his daddy, and his daddy been in and out of jail since he was 15. So when you don't know what to say, instead of you just using your word recklessly, you have to exercise your right to remain silent because when you go to court, the judge gonna say, "No, you said this.
Yeah.
This what you said." So exercise your right to remain silent until you know how to speak. Exercise your right to remain silent until you know what to say. Exercise your right to remain silent till you learn how to properly speak life
Right.
over your marriage. Exercise your right to remain silent till you train your mind only speak that which is good. Because when people look at cursing, you look at that as saying like the F
Profanity.
word or
Yeah.
profanity. No, cursing is saying you can't do this, you
Mm.
never will become that, or you can't that's cursing.
Yeah.
And cursing is worse than profanity
Yeah, it
because
is.
you're telling somebody what they can't become, or you're telling someone they are like someone that you deem no good.
Hmm.
We have to watch our words. We have to
Yeah.
be careful when it comes to our words.
Well, I know from my part as learning how to pray,
Mm-hmm.
learning how to connect with God, going to God about you,
Mm-hmm.
and God saying, "No, it's you."
Right.
And I'm like, "How is it me?" And then God showing me that mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "This is what you do to him
Mm-hmm.
every day. Every day you're beating him down.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you're tearing him apart. And I'm like, "Oh." Then it went from showing me what I was doing to you
Mm-hmm.
to showing me what the kids see
Mm-hmm.
and what the me that they experience.
Right.
That is what made me say, "Okay, I'm the problem."
Mm-hmm.
Even if I wasn't the full problem, I had to identify the problems that I was bringing to the table.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started being more intimate with God. If you say this is me, show me how to not let this be me.
Right.
Show me how to get out of this. And that's when God revealed to me the power of confession,
Mm-hmm.
the power of prayer. So remember, you came home and I had all this stuff typed up.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, before I typed it up, some of them I had written out
Mm-hmm.
in a book.
Right.
And I was like, "Look, God want us to say this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know it might not look like what you know, even now, the fact that we are faithfully married.
Mm-hmm.
2003, what was in that confession? My heart and my eyes only desire my what? Husband.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been together almost 30 years. I've gained weight, you've gained weight, you've lost weight. I'm still trying to get there. But guess what? That confession still is reigning supreme
Mm-hmm.
in our lives now because we continuously say it. My eyes are only attracted to my husband.
Mm-hmm.
My heart only desires my husband. People might say, well, that's too deep. No, it's irresponsible if you don't say this stuff.
Right.
It's irresponsible if you don't train your thoughts. It's irresponsible if you don't train and frame your way of thinking because the enemy, the Bible says, is roaring like a roaring lion, seeking. He's going to and fro, seeking whom he may devour.
Right.
And adultery, I need to make sure that is a door that I know
Mm-hmm.
is permanently
Mm-hmm.
closed and will never be open in my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
But it's amazing because in 2003, even when I didn't know how to talk to you, I knew that I needed God's support and I needed God's strength to get to a better level and to become better for us.
Mm-hmm.
When you saw the change,
Mm-hmm.
how
Yeah,
how
yeah.
did you feel?
Because within the marriage, when you see your spouse trying, when you see your spouse change, it's going to compel you to want to
Yeah,
change. If you want to see your marriage go to the next
yeah,
level, because the main thing what happens in a marriage when it leads to divorce or when it leads to a bad situation, one spouse is growing and
right.
one spouse stop growing. So I wanted us to grow together. So when I seen you was changing, when I seen you was making an effort, when I seen you putting
Yeah,
your best foot forward to move in that right direction, it compelled me to want to do the same. Because when you're speaking something and it lines up with the word of God,
yeah,
change is inevitable because the word of God shall not return unto him void. So
right.
when you speak in life over your marriage, when you speak in life over your situation, it has to line up
Yeah,
with what you've been speaking because
yeah,
that's the law. And it's the power of words. That's why we tell couples all the time, don't speak anything, don't release anything out of your mouth that you don't desire to see. Make sure you speak life over your marriage in spite of what it
in
looked like,
spite of.
because sometimes our eyes, our natural eyes, is trained to see the
Yeah,
problem, but your spiritual eyes is trained to
yeah,
see the promise.
yeah,
So you gotta know what lens are you looking through.
yeah,
Do you want to see your marriage go to the next level? Do you want to see your marriage evolve? Do you want to have a fruitful marriage?
right,
If the answer is yes, you have to change your language. You
right,
can no longer speak um damnation over your marriage. You can no longer
right.
speak curses over your marriage and expect for your marriage to be fruitful. It does not
It
work
doesn't
that
work
way.
that
If
way.
you always tell your spouse what they can't do,
They won't do it,
they won't do it.
you
Or
know,
why
or
are you even
they'll
surprised?
continue, they won't change. They'll
Mm-mm.
continue in that behavior. And here's the thing, decisions is still a thing.
Right,
You know, if you decide to just don't want to, you have to understand what comes with that.
right.
Everybody gets tired
Mm-hmm.
and you can't fight by yourself.
Can't, right.
You know what I'm saying? So you got to ask yourself, like, am I fighting alone?
Mm-hmm. Am I fighting alone?
Because I believe at one point in our marriage, even though you wasn't fighting with me,
Mm-hmm.
you wasn't fighting against me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you didn't understand this new change, like 3 days I stopped cussing. I stopped. You know what I'm saying? I'm giving you a word from the Lord every day, but you coming home getting high.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, what is going on? Like, even I remember you. I talk about that more. I want you to talk about you coming home and
Mm-hmm.
feeling like the house, like what's going on up in here.
Yeah, because when you used to a toxic environment, when the atmosphere shift, when the tone or the rhythm of your house shift, it's different. So
Yeah.
I'm used to us, fussing every day, cussing each other out. You say something to hurt me. Now I'm trying to come back with something worse than what you said to hurt you. So when that dynamics of that shift, it was different. I
Right.
wasn't used to that. Not saying that it was a bad thing. It wasn't a bad. It was a good thing. But when you coming from that toxic relationship, you just get accustomed to
Yeah.
the atmosphere. So when you start changing for the better, when I start coming home, sensing peace in the house or sensing a different atmosphere, it compelled me, it convicted me
Yeah.
to want to be better, to want to you know spend more time with God, because I seen you going down a different path than I was going. Because I remember I was still going to the club, I was still smoking, cussing, and drinking, and you started going in a different direction than what I was going. But what I appreciate, when I was going in that direction, when you was going in a different direction, you didn't judge me, you didn't condemn me. You just
Yeah.
said, "Well, God blessed us with this house. The only thing I ask, I don't care if you smoke weed, just don't smoke it in the house."
Yeah.
So I seen, the direction that you was going, and I seen you wasn't judgmental in me, still being on the same path that I was
Right.
on. You just told me, look, I want better, and I want you to come along on this journey. But you didn't ridicule me. You just said, well, I know in God's timing
Yeah.
you gonna come along the journey. So I remember you praying. I remember, you coming home, praise music on, or coming home, you listening to Pastor Dollar, or you listen to something that was inspirational, and it shift the whole atmosphere of the house.
Yeah.
And when you're coming in a house that's pleasant, when you're coming in a house that's not toxic, when you're coming in a house that's the word, is being played all day, or has been prayer, the dynamic changed. So
Yeah.
you can't do nothing but change it. Of course, it's easy when it's toxic to come in and
Yeah.
be toxic. But when you're coming in and you're toxic, but the atmosphere is love, when you're coming in and you're toxic, but the atmosphere is peace, you can't do nothing
Yeah.
but change. And like, that's just like if you put a flower in a condition with love, you put a flower in the condition where it's being watered, you put a flower in the condition where it's being properly taken care of, the flower don't have no choice but to grow.
Yeah.
So that was the atmosphere that I was coming. I was coming in the atmosphere that was full of love. I was coming in the atmosphere that was full of peace. So I couldn't do nothing but grow and evolve. It would have been foolish for me to fight against that.
Right.
It'd have been foolish for me to try to go against the grain and say, nah, I want that toxic
Yeah.
relationship back, or I want that toxic atmosphere back. Those were the things that we prayed for. Were the things
Yeah.
that we confessed. So it
Yeah.
was taking place
We
right
pray
before
to
our
be out
eyes.
of.
And
Yeah.
so many times when you're so close to a situation, you can't see what's taking place right when you're in the midst.
Right.
But then I would say, oh, it been a week, we haven't had an argument. Oh, it's been 2 weeks, we haven't had an argument. A full month went by, we haven't had an argument. So in that, we had to celebrate the small victory.
Yeah.
That was a small win. Now it's 2 months, no argument. 6 months, no argument. Man,
Right.
we made it through a whole year with no argument.
Yeah.
And now even when we have disagreements now, we learn not to belittle each other.
Oh yeah.
We learn not to point out each other flaws and imperfections. Why?
Yeah.
Because those are things that we spoke of our marriage years ago. Man, I'm telling you, people, power, it's power in words.
Yeah.
It's power in what you say. It's power in speaking what you want to see in the land of the living. It's power in that. Whether you believe it or not, it's power in what you say.
Whew, baby. That was good.
That was good.
And I think just thinking back on, I just kind of got teary eyed just thinking about where we've come from and how
Hmm.
far we have grown together.
Hmm.
And I'm just so grateful because I couldn't imagine, I won't imagine my
Hmm.
life without you.
Right.
Like you've always been my safe place, even when I was toxic.
Hmm.
You've always been that place for me. And, I I get an opportunity to, just publicly
Mhm.
thank you for just hanging in there and, just believing that, you know, I would be everything you wanted and more.
And that's vice versa. The same thing with you hanging there in there with me. Not having a father figure growing up, not having a good example of a man, not knowing
Yeah.
a good example of what a husband should be. And I know there's no book on how to be a husband. There's no book on how to be a wife. And even if there is a book, you know, you
Yeah.
can't.
You still have to
You
learn.
still have to learn.
Yeah.
It's trial and error. So I'm just glad that we both hung in there and we both evolved and we both grew as people.
Yeah.
And now we know how to speak what we want to see in the
Right.
land of living. Now I know how to pray for you. Now
Yeah.
I know how to speak life over you. Now I know, the do's and the don'ts. Now I could pray for you wholeheartedly. I could, speak life over you. And that was something that I didn't know how to do in the
Right.
beginning. That was something that we both had to evolve and grow to, but it all goes back to that confession, us speaking what we wanted to see over our marriage when our marriage was toxic, when our marriage was headed for a divorce,
Yes.
when we didn't know which way was up,
Yeah.
when we was only in the marriage for the kids. So
Yeah.
so that was a huge part of our marriage confessions.
Whoo. I think we're gonna have to do a part two on this one, baby.
Yes,
This episode here, it was vital, powerful, and it was just amazing. I
it was
think we're gonna have to
amazing.
do a part two. What you think?
I think so too. I think we have to do a part two because, our marriage is what it is today by the power of words.
Yeah. Well, guys, that's it for today's episode. Man, we are so grateful for you. We're
Yes.
thankful for you. Make sure you tell somebody about Love Under the Influence, because when I tell you, we're taking marriages back from the
Yeah.
kingdom of darkness.
But you know what? That's the goal.
Yeah.
We're telling you what we've been through. We are being transparent. We are showing y'all our
Yeah.
lows. We are showing y'all our highs.
Yeah.
And we're showing y'all how we've been happily married going on like 16, 17 years now because the words that
Yeah.
we spoke. So
Yeah.
love
Although
under
we've been married,
influence.
this year be
Yeah,
22
yeah,
years. We've
but
been
we
happily
married for
married
like 17
like
years.
17.
So love under influence, man, this community
Yeah.
is
Tell
awesome.
somebody about it.
It's awesome.
I'm telling you, tell somebody about it. And listen, this content that you guys are receiving, it is valuable, especially if you apply what
Hmm.
you're listening to,
Right.
if you apply what you have learned, if you take notes and you take this serious. Listen, we're ex-drug dealers turned pastors. We left the streets in 2002 and never went back.
Hmm.
Went broke, had a house fire, lost everything we owned. But at the end of the day, we're here fulfilling the will of God for our lives.
Hmm.
And we're definitely allowing God to use what the devil thought he was going to use against us to bless those that follow us.
Yes.
Man, I'm Pastor Tay.
And I'm Pastor Dean.
Listen, tell somebody about Love Under the Influence. And we're going to talk to you guys soon, man. We appreciate y'all and have a great day.